This is my favorite, literally favorite report to run. And before I start this report, I'm going to tell you a story about it. Basically, during my time at BarkBox, we learned something magnificently interesting. Now, I can't tell you the specifics of it because, well, it's a public company now and I was under strict NDA, but I can tell you something really interesting about it. When I joined there, we were spending a lot of money, and when I left, we were spending a lot more money per day on Facebook ads. When I say a lot of money, I mean, upwards of $10,000, way beyond plus per day, and at peaks beyond $100,000 per day. And one thing we found out there is that there was a relationship between consumer behavior, aka through day of week, and purchase behavior. So we had a huge data team. We had, literally dozens of people working on this. There's so much money being poured into Facebook and other platforms and such. And one person from the data team made a recommendation that we should spend more money on a specific day of the week. In fact, 2 days of the week, we should spend more money. And the long story short here is that we tested it and it worked. And this one single finding allowed us to spend about 10 to even 15 times, depending on the time of the year, 10 times more than we were on normal days. So these aren't actuals, but I'll give you a rough example. Let's say those 2 days were Saturday and Sunday. We would spend the same 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000 Monday through Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, we would turn the budgets up, not kidding, 10 times higher. So $100,000 in this example. Now, the reason this worked so well is because we figured out that when people specifically had a higher conversion rate, aka like they visited the site and they were more likely to buy, we should be spending more. So the conclusions that I draw from this, I thought were unique to my experience at Bark. But what I found out very quickly was that they're not. Almost every single brand and every consumer has a behavior based on the product that they're buying. So some people buy shoes more on certain days of the week. People buy athletic gear on other days of the week. People specifically gear up for the weekdays. For example, on a lazy Sunday, you're much more likely to buy athletic gear that you're going to start to work out with starting tomorrow. When we're around homes, when we're around our home, when we're home in our normal lives, we are more likely to buy things for our home. When we're around our pets, we're most likely to buy things for our pets. So think about how that applies to your brand. Okay? Think about how the days of the week are impactful in your brand. Now, the reason I preempt this with such an important message at first is because this is the single report that I see nobody do. Now, I've seen guys out there, I've seen other YouTubers and people in my space, agency owners, whatever, start to talk about this. I know for sure, that I've been the only person doing this for the last 10 years. There is very few people publicly talking about this, and it is one of the best ways that you could squeeze 15 to 20% out of your return on ad spend. But more importantly, forget squeezing 15 or 20. It's way more important that you're able to scale significantly more and have balanced conversion rates. Okay. So I'm going to show you exactly how this is done and the theory behind it too. And we're going to start, you might not like this, don't skip ahead, but we're going to start with the theory here. So let's zoom into a nice chunk here. Let's go to some white space. So cool. The important part about this is that every day of the week, let's just say we had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Okay. Every day of the week, you have a given conversion rate, right? So let's say your average conversion rate is 2.5. That doesn't, you know what? I'm going to do this in sheets for you guys because otherwise it's going to get a little funky. Okay. Every day of the week, your average conversion rate is 2.5. So this is going to be your average of this. This is how most people think about this, and this is why they're wrong. Most people think the average is 2.5%, and they just go with this broad assumption that, yeah, every day is just about 2.5%. Here's the reality of what this looks like. This really looks like Monday is 2.4, Tuesday is 2.7, Wednesday is 2.6, Thursday is 2.4, Friday is 3, Saturday is 3, Sunday is 1.8, okay? And then, or let's go a little bit lower, 1.7, even lower, 1.4. Oh my goodness. Here we go. 1.4%. Boom. Okay. Now, technically, in this machine, if we put $1 in on an average, we would get a 2.5% conversion rate. If we put 100 people to the site, 2.5 would convert, right? However, if we look at this at amount spent and clicks, well, let's just do clicks, forget amount spent. If we look at this in clicks, if I put 1,000 people every single day of the week, we use our same average here, right? And we spit this into example number 1. So everything in example number 1 is going to be green. Everything in example number 2, which is more realistic, is going to be purple. Okay, so if we put 1,000 clicks into every single day, the green side is going to bring us this. Clicks times conversion rate, that's the number of conversions we're going to get. If we go all the way down the list, get our average here, we get 25 conversions per day. Okay. Now let's do the exact same thing. I could just scroll this over. We could do the exact same thing with our clicks here. So we're going to take 1,000 times this conversion rate. Okay. Still gets us the same average, right? So we're still getting on average 25 conversions. But what's going to happen, and I know everyone feels this, they get certain days of the week that are better. Well, I drove 30 purchases this day. Now we're going to assume to drive 1,000 clicks, you're spending the same amount every single day. 1,000 clicks maybe. We're going to say it's at a $10 CPC. Okay, so if we go like this, we go CPC, or just amount spent, is equal to 1,000 clicks times, let's go $5 CPC. Okay, so you spent $5. This is amount spent. You spent $5,000 every single day, bringing you, of course, to an average of $5,000 in ad spend. Those $5,000 got you 1,000 clicks. That drove an average of 25 purchases every day. The green is the standard 2.5 example. The purple is the variable example. You probably know what I'm getting at this point. Why would we want to spend the same 1,000 every single day, or the same 5,000 every single day, when some days of the week convert better? The answer is very simple. We should not do that. So let's break this example completely. If instead we had our amount spent in clicks over here, move this guy, so just stick with me. I like to get really advanced on my sheets really quick. So instead, we're going to use this in a little bit of a different way. Instead of saying we're spending a flat 5,000 every day, we're going to still put this hard-coded in, 5,000 every single day, but our clicks are going to be variable. So we're dividing whatever we spend divided by $5. That's going to be our click count. Okay. Everything looks exactly the same right now. Not a problem. However, on better performing days of the week, we should spend more money. I'm going to keep this really simple. We're going to spend the same amount of money, but because Sundays have significantly worse conversion rates, all I'm going to do is cut this spend in half, and I'm going to distribute this spend. So we have $2,500 we're working with into the better performing days, Friday and Saturday. Okay. So we're going to add 1,250 for a total of 6,250 plus 6,250. You could see our average is still 5,000, right? But our total purchases is now going to go up because we now have an increase in the better converting days of the week. And it looks like my formula here is, yep, it was wrong. Just go equals average. Okay. So we just bumped up our average purchases by just 1 per week. Sounds really silly, but if you actually just count, you could see this equals 183. So equal sum is 183. Equal sum is 175. We spent the same amount of money. Total spend of equals sum of $35,000. 35. We drove an additional 8 purchases as a result. Now, That might not seem like the biggest deal, and I know there's two red flags that are going off in your head right now. Red flag number one is, well, if I increase spend on Friday and Saturday, then isn't my conversion rate going to drop? Yeah, it's probably going to drop a little bit, but it's not going to drop down to 1.4. Okay. What's also going to happen is because you're spending less on Sunday, your conversion rate's actually going to go up here, right? So there's a balance that's being struck. So you're getting an automatic squeeze out of your best performing days. But the second thing that usually happens for businesses in this case is that they're able to not just distribute spend or redistribute spend. That's step one. Step two is that they're able to actually significantly put their foot on the gas on better performing days. Because the math for conversion rate is basically your math for profit, essentially. So let's just say, let's go with the 2.5% conversion rate still. If you get clicks for, so we're going to CVR here, if you get CPC, there's $5, boom, 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 $5 CPC, 2.5 conversion rates, your number of clicks, we're just going to say is 1,000 just to keep things consistent. That means you amount spent equals this times your CPC, meaning you spent $5,000 to drive 1,000 clicks at a $5 CPC at a 2.5 conversion rate, which means that if you drove 1,000 people to your site at a 2.5% conversion rate, that means 25 purchased, right? So what we want to be able to know is at what conversion rate are we profitable, assuming CPCs stay flat. It's really, really quite as simple as that. So you should then know your average order value. Let's just say it's $100. Okay. And we can then take in your purchases times your average order value. You made $2,500. This is actually a terrible example because I just did this on the fly. You'd be 0.5 return on ad spend. This would be terrible. I guess in this case, like a more realistic CPC is probably like $2, in which case you would be positive. But let's just use the same example for the case of this. So this would be your revenue, right? 2,500. So then you could understand, you know what? I actually need a certain higher conversion rate to be profitable. And what's most likely going to happen is, let's just pretend again to use 2.5 as a baseline. You know, anything at 2.5 or greater, you're profitable. That means that all you need to focus on is getting a 2.5 conversion rate. You don't need Sunday to be 1.4. You should actually spend less on that day. And you don't need Friday and Saturday to be 3 because that's above your baseline, and therefore you should spend more. You want this right here. This is what you want your conversion rate to look like. You want it to be the same every single day so that it's very predictable. However, in 90+% of cases, it's not the same every day. And what you actually need to be doing is gearing it to be the same by fluctuating spend. Okay, once we go into Facebook ads, I'll show you exactly how to find out your day of week report. You're going to go into your ads reporting. You're going to create a new report. I like to call this DOW for day of week. And we're going to go with this account right here. We're going to eliminate campaign name. We're going to eliminate ad set name, delivery, reach, and I don't care about any of this stuff. All I really, really care about is amount spent, purchases, and revenue. Okay. So we're going to get purchases in here, or excuse me, we have to get metrics, purchases, purchase conversion value. Most important things. Then we're going to break everything down by day. Okay. And then just to be safe here, even though I just said don't do this, we're going to break everything down by campaign as well. And I'll show you how this works in the actual pivot table. The next piece is, instead of just using a short date range, we want to use as long of a date range as we can. So as long as you haven't had a huge flash sale or something crazy, we want to use a long date range. Now in this case, I'm going to use the Monday. So make sure you're counting the same number of days. So if you start on a Monday, wherever you go, you're going to end on a Sunday. Okay, Monday to Sunday, boom, we have from March 3rd to August 17th. We're then going to export this data as a CSV, export, and then we're going to type in sheets.new. It's going to open up a brand new Google Sheet, and at the same time, we're going to save our report. That should have just popped over. We're going to click File, Import, Upload. We're going to upload that new CSV. So basically, this is doing what the Facebook reporting cannot do. It's fantastic. We're going to eliminate F and G here. So now we're just going to have A through E. And we're going to go all the way down to the bottom. I like doing this by clicking Command down arrow. Shows you all the way down to the bottom. Just to know I have all my information here. So we're good. We're going to highlight all A through E. We're going to click Help Pivot Table. We're going to insert a pivot table into a new sheet. Just like that. This is going to create the base for us. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to type in day of week. This is going to be equals weekday. We are dropping into here and we're clicking on cell A2. Click that, autofill it all the way down. It might show weird formatting. Just highlight the row and format it to numbers. These should come in as 1 through 7. 1 is a Sunday, 2 is a Monday, and so on. Now you can confirm this by just looking at your calendar. So I know for a fact today is a Monday. So that means yesterday, which is this date right here, was a Sunday. So we're good. We're going to hop back over to our pivot table. I'm actually just going to remake it so we don't get confused here. We're just going to go like so, highlight, pivot table, create new. We're going to go to rows, days of week here. So rows, days of week, click that. Then we're going to go to values and we're going to add in amount spent, purchases, purchase conversion value. And I don't like having this blank here. Bugs me out. So we're just going to click filters and we're going to click day of week. Click this is not blank. So unselect the blank. Click OK. All right. Now we're going to do some formatting. We're just going to get this all to currencies so we could see everything properly. Do as you please. This is just important to me. So this is going to be our spend. This is our purchases. This is our revenue. Again, this is just formatting for my own eyes. Then the next thing we're going to do is get our cost per acquisition, and we're going to get our ROAS in here. So our cost per acquisition is easy to calculate. We're just going to do spend divided by purchases. It's going to get us our cost per acquisition. And then for ROAS, we're going to do revenue divided by spend. That's going to get us our return on ad spend. And let's just reformat a little bit here. And then we're going to do the fun part. We're going to highlight this. We're going to click help. We're going to type in conditional formatting. And we're going to do a reverse color scale. Okay. So it's going to be this one right here. And click done. This is going to show you real quick. Oh, shoot, I'm spending on the wrong days of the week or not. Then what I like to do is insert a column to the left. And I just like to label my days because I mix things up all the time when they're on this these day of week situations. So I like to just make sure everything's clear. I don't like to have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I like to have the actual days of the week. We're going to then highlight this column so we can see very clearly. And something is crazy obvious to me. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are significantly worse than the rest of this account. In fact, so much so, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday are holding it down. Now, this is pretty common. It's a fairly common trend. We see weekends just generally doing better. We have way more volume on the weekends. We're already spending more on the weekends. We need to make sure we're continuing to spend more on the weekends here. Okay? Now, the next piece of this is how on earth do we implement this? So, when we go into the day of week analysis and we find out, like we did right here, that, hey, certain days of the week are better than other days of the week, there's one very easy way to do this and a second complicated way to do this. I'm going to show you all the easy way because this is what I recommend to basically everyone. What you're going to do inside of whatever is your primary prospecting campaign, you are going to adjust, not even inside the campaign, at the campaign level because we're using CBO. You are going to be adjusting spend based on these days of the week. Not even kidding. There's nothing more to it. If today is a high performing day, we are predetermining how much we want to spend on that day, and we are increasing the budget. A lot of people get complicated here. Oh, I need to go up by 8%, 12%. Bump it up. See what happens. Bump it down. See what happens. Now, a good note is once you start to get consistent with this, you can then go ahead and implement automated rules. So automated rules, you go to your all tools, you go to automated rules. You can click create rule. You could say increase budget Monday or what was it, Saturday to Monday, right? You could apply rule to all active campaigns or specific campaigns. You don't necessarily just need to do all active things. And then you could increase daily budget, right? You could do this with filters and such as well. All right. The thing that I would be very careful of is your maximum budget cap. Make sure that's in place. Make sure you have conditions in place. So, for example, some conditions that are really good to do is the actual campaign name. So make sure it's for your prospecting campaign only. All right. Make sure your action frequency is once daily. Okay. So don't set this for every hour. Don't set this for every 12 hours. It should be once daily, and it needs to be based on a certain date range. So you would need to then adjust in your filters based on time. So current time or current day is. Additionally, you could do action frequency once daily, and on your schedule, have a custom and have it to run on certain days of the week. Now, you could up it on certain days of the week and then have a second rule for moving down. Something to note here is, let's say the Monday through Tuesday or Sunday through Tuesday, you want to go plus 50%. Okay. So your $1,000 budget now becomes $1,500. Okay. Plus 50% is not equal to minus 50%. Okay. Minus 50% is adjusting this minus 50%, which is going to put you at 750. So if you're at 750 for 1, 2, 3, 4 days of the week, and you're at 1,500 for 3 days of the week, this average 1,000 times 7 for 7 days of the week is 7,000, but 1,500 times 3 is 4,500, and 750 times 4 is 3,000, right? 750, yeah, 3,000, which means you're now $500 over budget. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but that's about 12.5% over budget, because 4,000 plus 3,000 is 7,500, not 7,000, which is what you were originally pacing to. Additionally, these have a compounding effect. So the next time you're on this, right, if you move it down minus 50%, you just thought, who cares? Only $500 extra. Next time you try to go up 50%, you're going up 50 on an increased budget. So these are going to get very finicky. Like there might be like minus 42.7776% or something. Just use your calculator. If you're watching this, you're a smart guy or gal. So just make sure that you're actually calculating what the budgets will be and how they will adjust. All right. That is a banger, if I'm honest. I could have just made a huge YouTube video on that, but this is exactly what this program is for. This is the most detailed stuff I can possibly give. This is what we do at the Moonlighters. Okay, I hope this helped. I really hope a lot of people got value out of this one.